Well, hello there.
Hello.
You good people. Thank you for joining us for episode... I shouldn't laugh. Episode 215 of 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir.
Give me that pinky. Yeah.
Pinky promise there.
Pinky swear.
Yes. You've never seen the film Drop Dead Fred. Avoid it like the plague. No, see that cute and charming film.
Oh, it's a great film.
It's so weird.
We need to watch it again.
Have you ever had something that was one of your favorite things, but you knew objectively you really shouldn't recommend it to anybody?
Well. It doesn't matter. I think everybody would love it here.
Going on here?
Oh yeah, it's a feather.
Totally forgot that was there. Hi, folks. Thanks for joining us. I know a rough start. Amy was a star. Okay, this afternoon, dance recital, flamenco, and we just got in not that long ago from it. So, I do have, as usual, voluminous notes. They're just not quite as organized as they usually are, and that's why I'm glad you are here. I need to take a look in the chat here. Let's see. We got the YouTube chat. We got the Facebook going. I think we have the Facebook going. How are we looking on the Facebook side of things? Sorry about that, folks. As I say, running a little behind the 8 ball here, but we will be going gangbusters PDQ. Why is this not? Amy, say something charming while I figure out what's going on with my chat windows.
So
it's kind of like when you told me,
so I did
Robert, write a Post-it note, and I'm like, what should I write? And you know, something.
Yeah.
So you can do
put
that.
something. Something as opposed to nothing.
Something in the way she moves.
You know, this is the primacy of existence. You know, it's not. You know, there is something out there. There's something that's understandable. So, okay. So flamenco. We did 2 different dances, 2 what we call tangos. It doesn't actually include the castanets or the fans or the shawls or anything. It's just us and the kind of like these weird things that we do with our fingers. So we fan the fingers out and we do all that and
I got video. I might even post it.
We actually maybe we stomp around like dinosaurs but gracefully.
It's like tap dancing, except it's not. It's Spanish tap dancing.
Yeah, we were working on a kind of a rubberized floor, so it wasn't the best in terms of hearing ourselves and our feet. That's really important to hear our own feet when we're dancing. So that's why when you see flamenco dancers, wherever they are, it's usually they've got their own like little wooden board that they dance on because they need to hear themselves.
And it's loud.
Yeah, it's it's probably louder than tap dancing. Although then again,
it's like it.
Kind of like it.
Yeah.
It's more stompy.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful. So anyway, I brought the flamenco spirit. Robert tells me that I looked very confident in what I was doing.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you look sharp. This is a dance recital at a dance studio, and not all of the dancers are flamenco dancers. In fact, none of the dancers are flamenco dancers except the troupe that Amy is part of. So if you've ever been to a modern dance recital, you know it runs the gamut from ballet, and there are 1 or 2 charming acts, to modern writhing in agony and heartbreak and just boring melancholy. And then some cute kids go out and do something, and then the adults come back and get in their contortions again. So seeing Amy's flamenco troupe as part of the dance recital, the climax, the end of the dance recital,
they put us at the end for the finale. They're very smart
to leave you with something good versus all that other stuff.
It wasn't just our 2 dances. We also had a guest. He's sort of a jazz acoustic guitarist.
Yes, live music.
So he was playing live, and so we were dancing to the music that he was playing. So that was actually very nice.
Sorry, it's
and it kind of brought a little bit more of that kind of excitement.
Yeah, it's best when you have live music. We've done, I say we because I'm the sound man for the group. We've done a lot of performances where we used recorded music, and it's always better when you have live music for flamenco. At least if your guitar player is pretty good.
Yeah.
And he was pretty good today. So Ray says hand modeling with Amy. Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Do the whole Vanna White. You could win this microphone. Yes. folks, again, sorry about the rough start, but came back from important event with Amy, the star. If you see the video, you'll see she was right in front. Well, because I was sitting on her side of the stage, but very, very cool. Thank you for joining us. It's ideas versus people. It's freedom versus pizza. And I told Amy that, and she said, wait a minute. Why would it be freedom versus pizza? And you're right. It should have been tyranny versus pizza. That would have set you up for the conflict that we're going to talk about today. I don't know. It just rolled off the tongue, freedom versus, but it's freedom and pizza. What the hell?
Yeah, I mean, it has nothing to do with the idea of, if you are like a hedonist, for instance, and you're kind of bound by eating pizza and...
Oh, I see. No.
And you don't really have any goals in life or any plans.
We do pizza mindfully.
Yes.
Intentionally, with presence.
We have pizza intentionality.
That's right. So, thank you for joining us. It's great to see. It took me a moment to get my chats up, so it was very good to see. Both Petya and Jim are in the chat there, joining us, hanging out on the YouTube side. Paul is first and foremost. You get the first comment prize, and it's good to see. Equal to Reality, Matthew, Paul is there, Race is there. Join us in the chat. Make some noise if you're listening live. And like the show, even if you don't like it yet, because we need your likes. We need those altruistic, self-sacrificial likes. If you don't... If you're still listening, you must like the show, right?
I just did the thumb thing.
You did? Oh, you liked the show.
Yeah, I like the show.
You could like yourself. I don't know. That sounds a little bit racy. Thank you for joining us. Today is June 23rd, the 175th day of this, your best year yet. Man, it just keeps getting better and better.
Your best half a year yet.
You might be thinking, I don't know, man, this hasn't been my best year yet. We're going to prove you wrong, or at least we're going to give you reason to be encouraged about the rest of the year. I'm going to do some on this dates. Oh, by the way, Christmas is in 185 days. Halloween is in 130. I just didn't have anything right around the corner because summer is here and the time is right for dancing in the street. You've got 3 months. Well, upper hemisphere, of course. You've got 3 months to make the best of it. I hope you are fully engaged with summer. We had a big heat wave in Motown and a lot of parts of the United States, but...
It's only 130 days until Halloween?
Yes.
Good, because we actually started Halloween early. We started it last Friday, actually, this couple days ago. We started Halloween.
That's true. We went to the Poe House. Actually, we went to an auditorium and saw presentations of 4 of Edgar Allan Poe's stories.
Yep.
They were readings, but not from a book.
They were dramatic
readings. Yeah. Semi-acted out, but solo performers.
And Jim, I'm sorry, but you missed it. But I was really intoxicated because what happened was with each one of these parts, there was there was the Raven, Telltale Heart, the Red Death, and the Black Cat. So anyway, with each one of these, they would bring out a cocktail.
Yes.
So not only did I have 4 cocktails, I really had 5 because I drank one of Robert's, and which was the bourbon milk punch.
It was a good. Not everybody makes a good bourbon milk punch. They actually
very good.
Considering they're doing them in quantity for a room with a few hundred people. They did a good job with the drinks.
And I really did a great job with my coordination. I actually kept my feet underneath me, which was amazing.
If you knew how much Amy drank on Friday, you would be surprised by that.
I've never drank so much alcohol in my life.
And that connects.
I could feel my brain shrinking like a raisin. Thankfully, it's rehydrated and everything. It's all fine now, but it was kind of funny.
That connects with last night, which is Great Lakes Objectivists. But I'm going to loop back around for that because real quick, first, on this date, June 23rd, this is the birth date. It's circa, it's apocryphal. We don't know the exact date, but the date that we use for Johannes Gutenberg. Johannes Gensfleisch zur Laden zum Gutenberg. Guy who made the printing press. Come on, books, the printed page.
Well, he needed a printing press so that he could actually spell out his name.
That's true. That's a long name. You get sore writing that puppy.
He couldn't keep up with the hand.
Maybe the real reason for movable type. Born on this date, more or less, circa 1400. We have his date of passing, which is February 3rd, 1468. So he lived to be 67 or so. That's a good life. And he's the man we owe. I mean, when I print things, I'm using an HP laser printer. I'm not using movable type, but getting from where you have to write everything to where you can mass produce it. Now, happy birthday, Johannes Gutenberg. Great minds that are responsible for so much of what we have today, and I never fail to be grateful for that. It's interesting. There's a website out there. I've talked about it before. If you don't know about it, this is a gift for you. Project Gutenberg.
Yeah.
And Project Gutenberg is a website that makes an archive of all the ones that they get their hands on, all of the books that are out of copyright. The classics. You can go there and read, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. You can go there and read all of the great Greek classics. You can go there and read basically anything that's more than 125 years old, or 75 years if the copyrights were never renewed. And it's all there at Project Gutenberg. I've put a link in the show notes, the description on YouTube, the description on Facebook. You probably already know about Project Gutenberg, right? Do you know about LibriVox.org? What is LibriVox.org, you say? Well, they had the idea we could do a free website of all the things that are freely available. What if we did audiobooks of them too? Well, but to do professional audiobooks, you can't give stuff away. That takes money. Well, they take volunteers. Go to LibriVox and you can get audiobooks of these, or at least the ones that people have volunteered to read, and there's an endless amount of them. And one more. Besides Project Gutenberg, besides LibriVox.org, there's archive.org. What is archive.org? Kind of the same idea, except it includes copyrighted works if the copyrights are respected. You only read a certain number of pages online, kind of like when you read a preview at Amazon, but also lending libraries that have the books on the shelf and can lend them out to you. A lot of libraries do this. Your local library may do this. Archive.org consolidates a lot of that. So there are books you can read for free because you can borrow them from a library over the internet. It's almost borderline thievery, but it's amazing, and it's legal, and it's legit, and it's all too cool. So happy birthday, Johannes Gutenberg, for making the printed. Somebody would have done it eventually. But you could say that about every invention. Johannes Gutenberg, the great genius who changed the world. Speaking of great geniuses, it's also the birth date of Alan Turing, the great British genius who helped us win World War II. Mixed story, a great guy, brilliant, probably more brilliant than Gutenberg. He was Albert Einstein level genius. And it's his birthday, June 23rd, 1912.
Nice.
Yeah, bit of a tragic story there. Only lived to be 41, but we praise him on this date. And
we praise him like we should.
We have to praise him like we should. And I celebrate that we no longer, at least in the civilized world, in the first world, we no longer do to people what the British government did to Alan Turing.
Yeah.
Alan Turing was a gay man in a time when that was a crime, and he was actually criminally prosecuted for it. Chose so-called chemical castration, basically libido-killing drugs, over going to prison. Died of cyanide poisoning a couple years later. The assumption has been that it was suicide, although there's some question about that. I don't mean to get too much into the tragedy. I'm saying happy birthday to Alan Turing, but it does make me appreciate we don't live in those times anymore. We don't send people to jail. Hell, we don't even do Lenny Bruce. We don't send people to jail for blasphemy, although some people are still trying. If they can get the Ten Commandments put back in the schools down south here in the States, maybe they will start putting people in jail for blasphemy again. It's still a crime. It's still a crime to show explicit sex acts and to use most of those 7 words they don't allow on public airwaves, meaning broadcast television and radio.
Yep.
But does anybody watch broadcast television anymore? Does anybody listen to terrestrial radio anymore?
Yeah, no.
On the cable systems, there's no limits other than what the stations choose to do. So sorry, Alan Turing, you were a man before your time in more ways than one. But happy birthday anyway. It's also the birthday. Now, this is where we get back into last night's glow. Great Lakes Objectivists.
Yes.
Bunch of objectivists get together.
It was great. We talked philosophy.
We talked philosophy. We had fewer people than usual, and maybe that's why we got more into philosophy. Cause
it was great.
When the room is full, you get a whole bunch of side conversations going, and that's great, and it's very social. It doesn't always run as deep. So last night we got a little deep.
Yeah.
And one of the topics that came
great.
up, happy birthday, Bob Fosse.
Oh, no way.
Yes,
I didn't realize that.
Dance 10, looks 3 came up at today's dance recital, because I would say Amy's more of a dance 10, looks 10.
Robert was like, he kept asking me, Amy, why don't you like musicals? Tell me exactly why you don't like musicals.
Okay, first of all,
musicals.
I did not ask in that tone.
Oh my gosh, you kept asking me like 3 times.
Inquiry.
And then I kept
question.
answering, and I was very articulate and very thorough in my answers.
Yes, you were.
And but he kept wanting more. I'm like, why are you?
I guess your answers were so compelling that I just couldn't
You just
resist.
needed more. Yes, I need more reasoning about musicals and why you don't like them. Actually, I do like musicals, just not some, and that includes or does it, the ones that I like don't include Bob Fosse.
Yes, Bob Fosse is a certain type of choreographer and director who matches what I was criticizing about today's dance recital in some of these acts. He liked to be edgy, and edgy can be fun, and sometimes he was fun, but edgy often means the opposite of fun. Cynical or melancholy or angry or...
I don't know. Tell us what you think about Bob Fosse's dance style.
So we've done...
I'll rip you to shreds. No,
we did a whole episode once, actually, about musicals and which ones we like and why we don't like the typical, bandwagon, carousel, those sort of mid-period 50s, 60s, Oklahoma. But the real old musicals are great.
Well, like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers.
Yeah, Swing
Absolutely.
Time and The Gay Divorcee. And
Top Hat.
And I guess the middle of that, in between the ones you don't like and the ones you do like, there's, Singing in the Rain is charming.
Yeah, that I can handle. I can handle it.
But you're not as much of a Gene Kelly, as much of a Fred Astaire kind of fan.
Totally Fred Astaire all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, although there is actually a movie that I want to see. It's got, I forget what the name of it is, but it's got Fred Astaire and Rita Hayworth in it. And I saw a clip of it recently.
Is that Roberta?
No, I don't think so.
That was
Rita Hayworth, who was absolutely beautiful. She was a lovely dancer, and
Jim might come up with it before. Oh, Jennifer's actually on the Facebook side of things. How cool!
Cool.
And Equal to Reality is sharing with us that he did have pizza for dinner. We're talking pizza tonight for a reason that I'll get to in just a moment. Hand-stretched pizza base topped with tomato sauce, pork and beef meatballs, that's serious, mozzarella red Leicester, red Leicester, thank you. Cheddar cheeses, tomato and chili sauce, Worcestershire, pepperoni, red onion, jalapenos. That's a serious pizza, and not a pineapple in sight. So I approve, absolutely. If Caton is listening, I'd apologize, but come on, pineapple, really? So yes, absolutely. Ian responded when I mentioned that archive.org is also a lending library to a bunch of libraries. He said, are there non-lending libraries? It's a funny question to ask. Obviously, by lending, we mean a digital lending library. Of course, all libraries lend, except personal libraries don't. We go to the Eleanor and Edsel Ford home. They've got a great library there, and you can't touch those books at all. So that is a very funny comment. But in a way, yes, there are non-lending libraries.
I guess the most famous Fred Astaire and Rita Hayworth movie was called You Were Never Lovelier.
But I don't think that's the one you referenced me to.
I don't know. There's another one called You'll Never Get Rich.
We got to catch up.
And another one called Dance Crazy in Hollywood. But yeah, we've got to. But I got to say this, that Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers are a perfect match because they weren't the most beautiful people. Rita Hayworth, my God, stunning. Absolute beauty. And I just don't know how I'm going to feel with Fred Astaire being the love interest with Rita Hayworth, because they're just not quite the match.
Looks aren't everything,
but it's the spirit as well. I mean, it's
Fred Astaire. Dance 10, looks 3.
Right. Gosh.
But he carried himself so well; it made him handsome.
It did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we love Rita Hayworth, actually, in one of our favorite movies, Only Angels Have Wings. And that's with Cary Grant and Jean Arthur and who else? But anyway, yeah, Rita Hayworth was fantastic in that movie.
Yes. Yeah, Only Angels Have Wings is a must-see if you have not seen that film before. And it's a film for not just like normies, not just ordinary people, but especially those people who like an Ayn Rand film. You need to see Only Angels Have Wings. So happy birthday, Bob Fosse, even though Amy doesn't like Bob Fosse at all, and I'm not a big fan either, but he was brilliant, and you can enjoy just the talent of not just the dancers, but the choreography, and the cleverness of the script in a play like Chicago, for example.
Yeah.
You can enjoy that. But the great thing about Bob Fosse is, again, he was edgy, and we can look back at those times, like when Alan Turing was alive, and edginess was against the law. Well, you say edginess was never against the law. Blasphemy was against the law, and people were put in jail for it. There are sex positions that are still against the law, or at least are still in the books, but we don't live in an age where that kind of thing is enforced. So we live in the best of times. Real quick, just to wrap up the birthdays, happy birthday to Frances McDormand. I don't like her politics, but I love her style, and I absolutely recommend that everybody go out and see Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day.
Oh, yeah.
Super sweet, especially if you're an Amy Adams fan, but she's easy to be a fan of.
Very much.
The role that Frances McDormand plays is the amazing role in that film. So happy birthday. Frances McDormand is 67 years old today. One more birthday.
Ooh, who's that?
One more. Joss Whedon is 60 years old today.
Oh, wow.
Joss Whedon has taken a lot of knocks.
Yeah.
Apparently he doesn't treat people very well. He's kind of high and mighty.
Well, there are a lot of directors that don't treat people well.
Yeah.
I mean, there were... Yeah.
But to me, Joss Whedon committed only one crime.
What's that?
And that is that he didn't fully appreciate his own creation.
Oh, you're right. I was going to say that. I was just going to say that.
Of course, we all love Firefly.
Yeah.
It's everybody's favorite TV series that never got renewed after the first season.
Right.
That somebody should be in jail for. But Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yes.
The movie, not the television series.
I see now the error of my mistake.
Oh my gosh, that movie was so good.
What a line.
The TV series was great. But I'll tell you what, we went years, and I mean years, loving that movie.
Oh my gosh.
Seeing it every few years.
Just about every Halloween, watching it.
Before we bothered to watch the television series.
So the thing that kind of brought that up for me recently was that Donald Sutherland passed away.
We just lost Donald Sutherland, which is why I had to mention Joss Whedon's birthday.
Yeah.
Donald Sutherland was that kind of actor who was in a lot of films I would never want to see.
Yeah.
Not my style, not my politics, just not my thing. Horror films, but he was so good. And if you could find a film that you liked the film that he was in, God, this is a great time to catch up on Donald Sutherland films.
Yeah.
President Snow for you Hunger Games fans. But man, what a guy, what a style, what a
style. So this was, I posted on Facebook and I said, if you want to understand what it looks like for a human being to have a twinkle in their eye, look at Donald Sutherland. He always had a twinkle in his eye. It was so charming and wonderful. He had
what you want to see in an actor, which is star power.
Yeah.
And I don't mean big and bold and outright. No, I just mean that something extra.
Yes.
Where you say, I like watching that guy.
And
I want my life to be a little more like that.
A pleasure to watch.
When I watch that, I'm like, yeah, I could be a little bigger, a little bolder.
He was actually, I forget his name now, in Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
Merrick,
the movie.
Yeah.
He was Merrick, who was the vampire hunter trainer. So, as one does. And Christy Swanson, I believe.
Yep.
She was in there, Luke Perry. And if that wasn't enough, though, Paul Rubens played the best role as a vampire.
Some of you may not know who Paul Rubens is.
And that's Pee Wee Herman. So this was after the whole scandal with poor Pee Wee Herman and all that stuff. And he laid low for a bit. He did some other films, and he did Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and he was the best.
And he's not Pee Wee Herman style at all. He's outrageous, but he's not Pee Wee Herman playing a vampire. He's Paul Rubens playing a vampire.
Who was Lothos? I forget the actor. His
Rutger
name.
Hauer.
Rutger Hauer was
I mean, this film had star power.
It's total star power, and it was so good.
And it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous movie.
Hilary Swank was in it.
But that's what was missing from the television series.
Yeah, I know.
What was missing from the television series is Joss Whedon forgot that he called this project Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The TV series wasn't ridiculous enough. It didn't live up to the premise.
Yeah, it wasn't funny. The movie was hilarious, at least to us. It may be goofy for some, but we love it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, we have so many one-liners.
Equal to Reality says, I never saw the film, I only saw the TV. I don't mean to rip on the TV series. We got family members who think the TV series is God. It's the best thing. Cool, no problem. But the movie, to me, fulfilled the promise. Fulfilled the promise of the premise. So, Rest in peace, Donald Sutherland.
Yes.
Thanks for the memories. Thank you for MASH, the film, of course, not the television series.
Yep.
Thank you for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Thanks for everything that you did, for being the guy you were.
He was so fun.
Yeah.
And happy birthday, Joss Whedon. I hope you live a very fulfilling life, and
I'm sure he does.
Are surrounded by loved ones.
He
who
ran into some
appreciate
challenges, but people love him.
Yeah.
He's got the extended acting family. You know, there was the Much Ado About Nothing. There are some great, films of Much Ado About the Shakespeare play. And of course, there are great plays, great presentations. Joss Whedon did the strangest thing. He took the cast and crew, mostly of Firefly, but of other projects he's led, and he got them to come film Much Ado About Nothing at his house.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, how do you take a film that's set in the 16 or 1700s and film it in a modern, in a house of a rich guy? It wasn't an obvious mansion, but it was a really nice house. And the answer is he had everybody dressed in street clothes, in modern clothing. And did he update the script for modern times? No! He had them read Shakespeare's English in modern times. That takes some stones. That takes some style, some panache to say, let's do this. This will be fun. My favorite people in my house filming Much Ado About Nothing without costumes and sets. Kind of cool. And I aim to misbehave. Good, we've got the Firefly quotes starting in the chat.
And now Ian says, I think that we're in the minority in preferring the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie.
I'm glad you said we. I'm glad somebody out there gets it.
Well, good for us.
Yeah, damn straight.
No, he didn't say we. He said, I think.
Oh, did he say you? I think you're in. Oh, he didn't say we're in the minority. He said you're in the. You were rereading that for us. Got it. Well, I don't mind being in the. I mean,
I'd say give it another chance, Ian.
Well, and 80% of our listeners are objectivists. Tell me you have a problem being in the minority. No, being in the minority can be a very good sign.
I was going to say, a group as a punk rocker, as a Nietzschean existentialist, I'm always aiming to be Miss Popularity.
That's right. I strive to be unacue. Or as unique as some people say.
Unacue. Yeah, and Ian also says, are there non-lending libraries?
Yes, I mentioned that. And I said the answer is there are people with private libraries.
I was going to say, like, Barnes & Noble. That's a non-lending library. You just have to pay for it.
Well, you're pushing the definition of library a little bit there, but I'm good with that. I'm good with that. So let me jump right into shameless self-promotion and what are we listening to this week? Self-promotion-wise, I've just been rereading my Substacks because I need to write. I've got a new one I need to write. And to get motivated, I read the other ones and I thought, damn, some of these are really good. Other than that, I got no self-promotion. But what we're listening to this week, well, the OISTs out there, our objectivist listeners know that the Ayn Rand Center What do you mean the Ayn Rand Center? Isn't that like Ayn Rand Center UK, Ayn Rand Center Israel, all those places around the world? No, the Ayn Rand Institute has announced the Ayn Rand Center here in the States. They're building this 2-story building, modern, looks like, well, it doesn't look like books, but it looks like it was inspired by books. A new Ayn Rand Center. There is a link in the show. If you have not heard this announcement yet, you can hear us talk about it, but you should watch it too. There's a link in the show notes. It should take you right to the point in Tal Safani's talk this year where he announces it, shows a video, and it's very cool because it's not built yet, so they show an AI or animated rendering of it. And, walking through the building, and they even have little animated AI people in there. And the first real person you see, which was actually recorded at the prior OCon, who's the first person we see in this amazing video? Well, who would I make the first person you would see? Yes, it's Amy.
It's myself.
If you see that redheaded gal who shows up first in the video. That's a big deal. That's a big announcement. That's really cool.
Yeah, I was very happy. At the time Robert showed me, I was having a bit of a downtime, and it really pricked me up, and just I'm like, yes, I shall extend my personage to be part of your cameo in your video.
Yeah, that was cool to see.
It was fun to see that, because I remember that when that was shot, actually, and they had set up a really nice little kind of mini pop-up library of some of the archives and some of Ayn Rand's letters and things like that, photos, and it's what they do at OCon. Honestly, it's one of the big reasons I like OCon is when they bring out what they bring out from the archives. It's quite large. What they have, quite extensive. So fun to see the letters, people writing to Ayn Rand, seeing Ayn Rand's actual written handwriting. It's really a thrill. So did you actually give out what? Did you actually just say what it was that they were announcing, or are we keeping that a secret?
No, I said it. I mean, there's more to see. I haven't told you everything. It's definitely worth watching the video that's linked in the description. I bring that up for a few reasons. It relates to some of the conversations we had last night at GLOW, Great Lakes Objectivists. And it relates to when Tal made the announcement, he had Yaron Brook come up on stage and help him set it up, show the video, talk about it. Yaron Brook also did a talk this year, as he always does at OCon. And his talk this year was the inverse, the opposite of the talk he gave at a prior recent OCon, when he talked about why I am still an optimist. And the talk he gave this year was, well, it was just labeled Yaron Brook at OCon 2024, but it was basically why I am no longer an optimist. And the reasons he's no longer an optimist are good reasons. Yaron Brook always has good reasons for everything he says and everything he does. But there were a couple of quirks about it. But the main reasons were, and reasons why I wouldn't say I'm not an optimist, but I'm bummed out. In the United States, we're facing an election of Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. Again, what is the state of the culture got to be that can happen? And adding insult to injury, or to make things even worse, it looks like Donald Trump's going to win, at least with the numbers as they are right now. I get it. I can see why that would make somebody a pessimist, but that wouldn't be enough for Yaron. He also pointed out, since October 7th, look at the left and the culture in general, because it's not just that the left is pro-Palestine and anti-Israel. Over on the right, you've got a bunch of crazies who are pro-Russia and anti-Ukraine. No, Yaron Brook's got good reasons to be pessimistic. And I share not the pessimism, but the analysis, the reasons. I get it. And I think those are all bad signs.
Yeah. We're actually talking about when the Tea Party existed. Fiscal responsibility, economic freedom, individual rights or personal freedom, however they called it. No one's talking about that anymore. I'm waiting for the day. Yeah, we
were showing our Tea Party slideshow last night.
Yeah, maybe I should get with my old Republican peeps. Not many I'm actually friends with anymore, but maybe I should reach out to them and say, you know what, I used to be a state committee woman at the GOP and a delegate. I dropped it all when Trump came on the scene, of course, but maybe I should reach out to people at the Liberty Caucus and say, you all need to check yourself before you wreck your. Well, actually, I'm sorry, you've already wrecked yourself because you didn't check yourself. So, and just I don't know, maybe reach out and say, listen, do you want to get together? We can talk on Zoom, whatever. Come to a restaurant, coffee house, and actually talk about ideas. Do you want to start talking about economic freedom again? Do you really want to, do you want to spread ideas like you used to try to do? See if anybody's interested.
Yeah.
I don't know. I doubt it, but man.
Well, two interesting, very Nasir-y things for me.
Yeah.
Jumped out of Yaren's, again, very well-presented talk. The first one was quirky and kind of gives you a clue to the second one. The first thing that jumped out was, at the end, he said, and I think maybe he said it on his podcast, but he said, next year, I promise my talk will be more optimistic. I'll give a more positive talk.
Okay.
Well, but if his talk is based on, well, here's how things are, how can you promise in advance to say, I'm going to give a more positive talk? And that relates to the question I asked him in the super chat, so he actually answered it, where I said, I get all the negative stuff. Have your opinions of the positive things changed? And he said, no, the positive things are still there. It's just they're overwhelmed by this culture crisis we're in. Again, I totally get that. But the culture has not yet wiped out the positive things. All of that good stuff that not only makes the Ayn Rand Center possible, the new one in Austin, again, not the existing ones, but also makes all of them possible, makes this podcast possible, makes all these books possible, including Tara Smith's new book, which we just got our hardcover copy in. Yeah. Oh, there he is, right there. Very cool. Which you can see we haven't cracked the spine on it.
No, we did. Actually, Steve cracked it.
Oh, okay.
And
well, I was really just saying we haven't read it yet.
New book smell.
Ooh, new book smell. Nice. So yes, Tara Smith's new book, Egoism Without Permission: The Moral Psychology of Ayn Rand's Ethics, by Tara Smith. Well, there's a lot of new books coming out. They just released another compilation of Leonard Peikoff's works.
Oh, did they?
Yes. And they keep putting together new compilations, and I especially like it when they find new items or items in the archives that haven't been published yet. They're far from done. Last year they gave us a copy, and we've since purchased the final copy. This was pre-publication of Don Watkins' book, of course, Effective Egoism, his answer to the effective altruism movement, and Lord knows that movement needs an answer. But other books by just good people, decent people, the people over at Doomslayer, at humanprogress.org, the optimist community, or the people I wouldn't even call the optimist community, just reasonable people like, well, I was going to say Sam Harris, but he's only reasonable half the time. People like Steven Pinker, people like Barry Weiss. I could go on with the whole optimism thing. I don't mean to do that tonight. I'm only making the point that Yaren is right. He is right about the culture crisis. He is right about the left, and he is right about the right. But it's also true that all of the good stuff is still out there. They have not, the people who don't want to be decent people, and he was talking earlier about, for example, Candace Owens, what a train wreck she is. Or reasonable, decent people like Niall Ferguson, who has been saying lately that, well, the United States is kind of in the position Soviet Russia was, but against China, who are now in the position the United States was in. What? Yaren tore that one apart.
People are so confused.
But there are really smart, decent people out there, and there are a few really smart, stupid people out there. I shouldn't say Candace Owens is smart, but she's not like a moron. She just says moronic things because she believes moronic things. And that gets us to one of the philosophic conversations from last night, and the point I want to bring out. Newcomer to the group, great guy. Very interested in, well, philosophy, but also politics and current events, and is of the opinion that what drives our politicians is they're just evil people. They're just horrible people. And none of them believe anything they say. Well, I agree that a lot of them are terrible people. They're second-handed, they're evasive, they have serious personality problems. And a few of them are downright evil. You can see it. You can see there's real malice. There's real evil in the eye. But the 2 points that I've made that I think are crucial, and we've all got to remember this if we are going to understand why a million good things are still happening every day, why we are not in the last days of the Roman Empire or the last pages of Atlas Shrugged. Far from it. The things we've got to remember are, A, most people are not willfully, deliberately evil. Even the evil ones tend to be evasively evil, or just pragmatically, amorally evil. And the other thing is that the ideas still matter.
Yep.
It really remains a war of ideas. It's why people can say Hanlon's razor. Some of you will know Hanlon's razor, the author, the writer Hanlon, who said, what was Hanlon's first name? Anyway, he said, never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. Well, I don't think it's stupidity. I think it's bad philosophy. It's the wrong ideas. People really believe stupid things.
That's Robert J. Hanlon.
Robert Hanlon, right. And it's funny because Robert Heinlein actually wrote 40 years before Hanlon put Hanlon's razor out there. I don't know if he ever claimed it was original anyway, but Heinlein wrote in one of his stories, Logic of Empire, a character is speaking, "You have attributed conditions to villainy that simply result from stupidity." You know, the way I always look at it is, before you decide somebody's evil, you got to decide, is it stupidity or malice? And it's a false alternative, because the third alternative ends up being the one that explains it in most cases, which is stinking thinking, bad ideas, bad philosophy, even bad psychology, which can lead to bad motives. But it's not as, God, I wish, and I told our friend this last night, I wish what we were fighting was simply evil. If this was a battle against evil, there's enough decent people out there we could fight them. But this is a battle of ideas. Try to convince somebody of a deep philosophic idea that they don't already agree with. It's a real challenge because ideas have power, and people actually believe things that are wrong. Louise, some of you will know on Facebook, the John Galt line. Louise, the starter and moderator of the John Galt line, posted on her own personal wall a meme. And the meme said, the meme is just a woman looking startled and shocked and outraged. And it's quoting, what is it quoting? Speaking of people believing things nobody could possibly believe. It's just a quote from the Bible. It's just Numbers 31, 17 through 18. And this is Moses and his fellow priest guys talking to the Israelites after they just defeated one of their enemies, one of the bad guys, the Midians. Not the midichlorians, the Midians. Biblical. And here's the quote from the King James Version, King James Bible. "Now, therefore, kill every male among the little ones." They're talking about what to do after they've won the war, what to do with the enemy. "Kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman that hath known man by lying with him," or laying with him, not telling him lies. "But all the women children who have not known a man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves." Now, some of you will know in the Catholic Church.
Sounds like Mohammed.
Exactly. Some of you will know in the Catholic Church there's a whole field, there's a whole specialty called apologetics. And they're not making apologies, although that's what they should be doing. They're explaining the parts of the Bible that seem difficult, hard to swallow. There are far worse things in the Bible. You can easily Google, find lists of them. Some of them are quite entertaining and horrible. So this idea of kill every male among the little ones, the children, you've already killed all the men, the soldiers, and kill every woman that hath known man by lying with him. But all the women children that have not known a man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves. There are people out there right now, like the so-called Bronze Age pervert. There are intellectuals out there saying we should live more by the mores of biblical times because it's closer to the truth of what human nature is.
Like,
this is not just 2,000 years old. This is people today who think we should live more like that.
Like Andrew Tate, of course.
When I say in 2024, we don't fully appreciate how civilized we are. We say, well, what about our politicians? What about the Middle East? What about Russia? Yes, there are people who are evil, terrible. There are situations where people are uncivilized. But compared to 100 years ago, compared to the glory days our conservatives want to go back to the 1950s, 75 years ago, look up the immoralities of that era. Look at the crime stats of the issue. Not the raw numbers. I know more crime in the 70s than in the 50s. Look at the things that used to be criminalized, including private sexual acts between consenting adults. Consulting adults, too, I'm sure. We have it so much better than that. Now, we're in a bad way politically here in the United States and in Europe. Think of the leadership you've got there and the ways in which we should have more immigration in the United States, but from some countries they should have less in Europe, and they're letting people coming from places that are not fully civilized get away with stuff they shouldn't get away with. The answer to that kind of immigration is simply law enforcement. If you told people coming from countries that didn't live by civilized rules, you can't do that here, and if you do, we will put you in jail for the rest of your life. Well, there's your solution right there.
Yeah. So to go back to Yarnbrook, you said that there were two Nasirisms. What were they again?
I'm sorry, you said that there were what?
Two Nasirisms, or Nasiri things.
Let me go back to my notes because I'm not able to connect what you're asking me. I've remembered.
Yeah, then you went on to talk about the description of Yarnbrook was his talk and his pessimism.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was making that point, but you're right. I didn't reconnect it back. So my point is, if Yarn can know a year in advance that he's going to be able to give a more positive talk.
Yeah.
Well, that says something right there. There's substance. There are reasons to remain optimistic that, again, may be overwhelmed by current events, and I get that, and I agree with Yarn, but the point is that stuff is still there. And B, and the other Nasirism is, if things were that bad, then things, current events, stuff, the stuff that touches you, going to the grocery store, going to the movies, watching sports events, going to a play, listening to music, going on the internet, having the entire world in the palm of your hand, watch Apple's announcements, that just keeps getting better all the time. And the future, automation, robotics, artificial intelligence, everything. You can find one or two exceptions, and people love to look at the one or two exceptions and say, see, Robert, suicide rates went up, deaths of despair went up, or especially over the course of COVID. Fentanyl. You can find the exceptions. You can look at 100,000 values in human life, the amazing things we are surrounded by. And yeah, you could find 5, 10, you might find 25 things to say there is reason to be concerned, and I will agree with you, 102%. But we are surrounded by progress. It's not where it should be. All the bad stuff is affecting it. But we continue to progress. This is still Dagny and Hank's world. I love John Francisco and Ragnar, and I totally agree with what they're trying to do. In the context of that book, we're not there. You cannot go to any big city, without going to the parts that are falling apart, because there always has been. The ghettos in the 1970s make today's New York slums look like luxury hotels. Even that improves all the time. Look at the numbers. Look at the statistics. I'm not saying it's all good. Unless you say, as an aggregate, is it all good? Yes, it is. That's the truth of what's out there. Optimism is simply realism.
Yeah,
and
it is.
I know it seems backwards to have gotten that from your own talk, but for both of those reasons, A, the fact that he acknowledges that all the good stuff is still out there, and B, that all of the bad stuff he talks about has not destroyed the good yet. I shouldn't use the word yet, because I don't think it's going to happen. But even if it is, we're nowhere near it. That is my point.
Yeah, so when we were talking at Glow last night, and we were talking about how it is that people aren't just evil. They're not just powerlifting. They're not just fearful of not being able to have particular skill sets in life, and therefore they need to manipulate other people like a politician does to give them some kind of means of income or the lifestyle that they prefer. No. There are moral ideas at play here, and that they use to justify their actions with. And we talked about that a little bit. We talked about how altruism is not an intact morality. It's not a full morality. It's a sliver of a morality, and it only answers the question, who benefits, who gets the goods. And it all only tells you as an individual that your actions need to be helpful to others in order for them to be moral. It doesn't tell you about anything about, why be honest, why be concerned with justice, why be concerned with any of these other moral things that Ayn Rand talks about in Rational Egoism. So anyway, it's a very, very interesting discussion, and I really appreciate the people who were there last night. And but going back to your point, Robert, the idea that we need to take inventory, stock take about what the values we still do have, the things that we do still appreciate, the things that we should be grateful for that we still have. It's a perspective, I think, that helps in anything. I used it during right before we went out today in the recital for flamenco dance. My instructor, she's wonderful. She does have, and she would tell you this herself, she has a tendency towards pessimism and worry. So she's sitting there. We're waiting for our turn to go on to dance, and she's just thinking the worst and worrying. And so, I told them what I thought, what's special about the dances that we were going to, and I listed a whole list of reasons why we're presenting something very unique, something that a lot of people don't see, and why our dances are good. And anyway, so I went on and on. It's really important to do that. It's not just some sort of Pollyanna-ish thing or some sort of futile exercise in optimism. No. It's the positive assertion has more moral ammunition in it than you think, than anyone would ever consider. If you can assert the positive, and you can say, if you can give people a positive vision about why you think something is right and correct and good and beautiful and even exalted, that is going to move the world. Those ideas are going to move the world. And that's what I did on Facebook. I think it was earlier today. There was this page called The Mind Unleashed. You think, oh, that's nice, but it's more of like a Buddhist sort of thing, and it's people, doing all sorts of woo, and so the question was that they posed was books that have totally transformed your view of the world, and I put Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead, ! With a little clappy emoji, and
I bet you got a real positive response to that.
I'll tell you what, I did get some positive responses, but
Good.
Most of it was negative. But the thing is that the negative people didn't actually tell me why. They gave a very, very surface level, very superficial viewpoint of what they think Ayn Rand stood for. So here's my response, because this guy named Vincent, he said something like, oh, so you must like Putin and Trump then. And I thought to myself, that's... That's a non sequitur. Yeah, I'm sure Putin really loves Ayn Rand.
Yeah, he's all about integrity and honesty.
Well, he's all about a woman, a Russian woman who escaped the Soviet Union, the thing that he loved so much at the KGB. I mean, can you imagine? So I said, my response to Vincent, who believes I support Trump and Putin, I said to Vincent, I almost responded with a laugh emoji, but I want to be completely straight. As a teenager in the 80s, I was a punk rocker who listened to bands from Minor Threat to the Dead Kennedys. I still do. I discovered Ayn Rand from my French teacher in high school, and I've been benefiting from her ideas for over 30 years. In case you haven't looked it up, her values are basically reason, purpose, and self-esteem, and her ideas are basically the primacy of existence, meaning being non-religious, reason as the only working means of survival, individualism and individual rights, and capitalism as a way to be creative, build values that you and others love, and trade them freely with a rational government protecting you from harm. I encourage you to do your own first-hand thinking and not settle for whatever you might hear in the political media. Philosophy and ideas do matter and do lead to a happy life. And that was my response to Vincent, who thought that I liked Putin and Trump.
Excellent. Excellent.
But if you see what I did there, first of all, I basically flat out told Vincent, I'm not going to play your reindeer games. I'm not going to give you a laugh emoji. I'm not going to troll you back when you troll me. I'm going to give it to you straight. And so I gave him some facts, authentic, genuine facts about my life. What my background was, where I came from, the fact that I came from basically a leftist worldview, and then I talked about Ayn Rand's ideas, as positive assertions, and no one can reply. Nobody gave me any coherent replies back to me who disagreed with me. That always happens. Come on, people. Give me some substance. But no. Yeah. So it was...
Sorry, I just looked up the thread.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we should post a link to it. But if you look up The Mind Unleashed, you'll find a group, and it's near the top. And, yeah, you're right. There are a few people who are very positive, and then a few people who are all straw man. They're arguing against something that's not what you're saying. And then right after that, somebody posts the Bible.
Yeah.
How is the Bible transformative? Jim just shared that 17:18 again. Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman that hath known man by lying with him, but all the women children that have not known a man by lying with him.
It's acceptable nowadays.
Keep alive for yourself.
Oh, so gross. I mean, Christians nowadays, they're like, oh, we can ignore the Old Testament. That doesn't count.
Yes.
And why?
Well, and reading the apologetics, which I was looking at just to get a little more background on that passage, there are people who will say, well, if you read Numbers, if you read Numbers 31, starting at the top and not at 17, there are things the Lord says, and then there are things which Moses says. And this is one of the things Moses says, not God. So it's more earthly and in the context of its times. These folks will... It just goes to show that if you start with a particular premise and you refuse to ever, as Ayn Rand liked to say, check your premises, then you will fold every other fact of reality into pretzels in order to make it fit that premise. And the more you read of these apologetics, which again should be apologies, the more you see that they cannot step outside of this context that they've built and say, wait a minute, there's no reality in which this is anything but a horrible thing.
Yeah.
So I asked myself, as we run out of time here, what would it take, Robert Self, what would it take for you to become a pessimist?
When in trouble, when in doubt, run in circles, scream and shout.
That's right. And I think it would essentially take all of the ways in which America, not just, there are great places in the world, Europe, Australia, every other great place too, but it would take the end of America, for America to stop being a free country. And I know a lot of people say, well, you have taxes and you have regulations, you have all these ways that you're not free. But I mean not a free country in the sense in which, for example, Ayn Rand talked about it. The elimination of free speech. Putting people in jail without trial and for political offenses. There were actually 4 of them listed. I forget the 4. I should have had that in advance. But that is what it would take for me to become a pessimist. The other thing that it would take would be to see industrial and technological progress stall. If things actually start getting worse, and not just, again, some neighborhoods that are declining while other ones are picking up. Folks should look at the Michigan Central Station videos and what they're doing in Corktown and that part of Detroit, Michigan. They took this great old train station and they revitalized it. It was torn down. It was a mess. All the windows were busted out. 15 stories. Everybody wished that they would knock this thing down. It was an eyesore. Ford Motor Company decides to renovate it. It's beautiful. It's amazing. And the whole neighborhood's becoming gentrified, which, in my book, is not a bad thing. What would it take for me to be a pessimist? A lot more than what I'm seeing right now. I agree with everything Yaron Brooks says, but then I look at what Louise posted, and I think, man, we've come a long way since then. And not just biblical times, but since Alan Turing's times. We live in amazing times. We have freedoms that would be unbelievable to people 100, 200 years ago, much less 500 years ago in Gutenberg's time, in biblical times. And that's what I take away from it. I'm excited about the ARI announcement. I'm very happy about what Great Lakes Objectivists is doing. I'm glad we can keep spending Sunday nights together. Thank you for joining us, if you're joining us live. And if you're listening afterward, thank you for that. In fact, if you want to support us, I think we say this at the end of every show, RobertNasir.com has got links to my Patreon, our PayPal, ways you can contribute to the show. Or just be here. Be here for us. Give us a like on YouTube. That would certainly help things a lot. Share the show with friends of yours, at least people who are strange enough that they might enjoy a show like this. No, I mean who are philosophical and intellectual enough that they might enjoy a show like this.
No, really, your support helps us keep the lights on, helps us keep the show running. And we really appreciate it, and we love you for it.
And I do have one more thank you, because we didn't have a Post-it note of the week last week. But this week, well, we received the cutest, oh my gosh, the cutest Post-it notes from Jennifer in the chat. Thank you again for that. And I didn't really have anything that I wanted to post this week, but Amy said, well, you've got to have a Post-it note of the week because we've got these great Post-it notes. So my Post-it note of the week is just a quote. Boy, that's hard to read on the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. Whoa, look at that. There we go.
Oh my gosh, that's so adorable. Look
Kindred
at that.
spirits. Kindred spirits are not so scarce as I used to think.
Oh.
A.S. No, that's not in Atlas Shrugged. That's a quote from Anne Shirley of Anne of Green Gables. Yes. Look at these Post-it notes that Jennifer gave us. Are these just too cute or what?
Thank you, Jennifer.
Unbelievable. Too much.
Super, super cute.
And I know some of you personally who are, you're not surrounded by kindred spirits. You're not in Austin, Texas, or even in Detroit, Michigan, and it's hard to find people who think the way you do. And I'm sorry it's like that for you. And I'm glad the internet is there for you, or programs like this. There are more objectivist podcasts than there is time to listen to, and that's a good thing, because that means you can wheedle it down to your kind of people, and that's cool.
Yes.
Whether you are more of a kindred spirit with Yaron Brook, obviously, but Michael Leibowitz, who has constant content. Obviously, the folks at the Ayn Rand Center UK, they're doing stuff every day. But if I start naming them all, I'll end up leaving people out more and more stuff. Nikos Sotirakopoulos has got a regular podcast now that he has started posting YouTube videos.
Nice.
Of course, there's the Ayn Rand Institute, and great people there. Some of those I regard as kindred spirits. Not to pick on any of the folks there that, aren't my favorite, but, to be able to watch videos by people like Ben Baer, for example.
Yep.
And Gina, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to leave people out. There's so much good stuff out there that if you can't find those kindred spirits to hang out once a month at Great Lakes Objectivists or to go out and do things with, at least take advantage of the internet, take advantage of those long-distance relationships, keep making your own life the best that it can be. And you can't ignore politics. Last night we showed slideshows of the protests we've done, the events that we've gone to, the Tea Party rallies we've engaged with, the booths that we've set up, and books how many Ayn Rand books we've given out, I don't even know. It's not that we're not engaged with politics, we just know the role it should play in your life and how small that role should be.
Yep.
I've often said you should decide in advance. Put numbers on it. Decide in advance how much of your life you're going to spend pursuing values and how much time you're going to spend guarding against disvalues. My numbers are 97.3. That might be a bit exaggerated, but 7% of my time, I'm hanging with you. I'm living my life. I'm playing music. I'm doing things. And 3% of my time,
true.
3% of my time, I'm updating the locks on the doors, or I'm buying insurance. And I'm doing politics. I'm writing letters to my Congress critters, or showing up at rallies.
And one of the things that's coming up that's really exciting is that Robert Garmong, our good friend Robert Garmong from China,
who we've interviewed on the show before.
And I can't believe I'm saying this, but in 2 days, he's going to be landing in the States.
He's not going to be from China anymore.
And, well, him and his young son, Roman, are going to be there. His wife, unfortunately, has to battle the immigration demons. So she needs to stay there in China, unfortunately. But, of course,
she is coming eventually.
We do have the GoFundMe/support Garmong. Or just look up GARMONG, GoFundMe, and you'll find it there if you want to go ahead and throw some dollars, towards his living costs, his relocation costs. He's going to need a significant amount of money to get himself back up on his feet. He does already have a job in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, some of you folks have been very generous because the first GoFundMe, you say, didn't we have one before? Yeah, he survived cancer.
Yeah.
And some of you folks were a part of making that happen. You saved the man's life.
It's amazing.
The last hump here is getting him back in the States, get him out of China. That's happening. Now, he doesn't start the new job for another month. So some folks have been very generous in contributing to helping with defray the living and moving expenses. Those of you who have, thank you. Those of you who'd like to contribute, just search. I don't have the URL handy, but search Robert Garmong. I think it's tinyurl.com/Garmong, but go do a Google search for it. You'll find it. If you can put a few dollars in there, that would be nice.
Yes, that would be wonderful. So anyway, we're actually going to be seeing him over the 4th of July weekend. We're driving over to a place in Illinois where his mom lives, and we'll be able to actually meet him and Roman. And it's going to be a very special occasion, and I hope that we will be able to report on that next Sunday. Yes. Or not next Sunday, but the Sunday after next. Super exciting news, guys. We did this.
I meant to mention this. Probably not the best way to end the show, but last night, Great Lakes Objectivists, I mentioned to the Glowites, the people who were here, our locals, kindred spirits, that we're going to Ocon next year. We missed it this year. We couldn't. We had a schedule conflict. But we've already registered. We've already paid for Ocon.
Yes.
And the lowest price you can pay for Ocon is always going to be the offer they make right after Ocon. Half off.
50%.
And I mentioned it last night, and I had heard the part of Yaron's podcast where he said, well, don't register yet because I may be able to come up with an even better discount. Yaron has a discount, too, for his listeners. I didn't hear the part of the podcast at the end where he answered my super chat where I mentioned that, and he said, well, 50% off. I don't think I'm going to be able to beat that, so you should go ahead and register before that ends.
Yes.
So anybody who was at Glow last night or heard me say, Well, yarn might have a deeper discount. No, there's no deeper discount than register. And it's kind of a lot of money to lay out in advance. But if you can...
The deadline is tomorrow.
The deadline is tomorrow. You got to register by tomorrow if you want that big discount. Now, they will usually have an early bird discount even after that. In the past, it's been, I think, 30% off. But if you want the biggest savings and you've got the capital, you've got the funds to do it, that's when to register. So you can hang out with us at OCon 2025 in Boston, and they've moved it back because it's moved around a little bit since COVID. What days, what month? It's back. It's back over Independence Day. Independence Day in Boston. What more could you want?
Yeah, I know. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be absolutely wonderful, and you really should go. You really, really should.
Yeah.
And we're going to be there.
I saw Chandler in the chat.
Yeah, and he missed us.
He's a rap star. I mean, we usually try to do karaoke, and if there's not official karaoke, we do our own.
I gotta say, I was very sad, but also very pleased, and my heart grew light at all of the people who were saying, "Gosh, I really missed Robert and Amy at OCon."
Yeah, we received some sweet messages in that regard.
It was very endearing, and I just love it. So. I really wish that we had been there. Gosh, I really wish that we had been there, but no.
Yeah.
The stars did not align.
I don't know if Equal to Reality is joking, but he says, a day before payday. I do recommend, and...
get credit.
One of my life lessons is learn to keep a rainy day fund.
Yeah.
Always keep a couple $1,000s laying around. Just laying around. I won't even tell you where I keep my rainy day fund, but it's interesting to be able to take a big chunk of money. I don't know, maybe for some people that's not a big chunk of money, but just leave it and never touch it. But know that it's there. It changes your view. If you're that kind of person who tends to live kind of paycheck to paycheck, consider setting a little money aside. I don't mean to pick on Equal to Reality. He might just be joking about that, but oh no, he says that just went on my desktop finally, paying it off. My daughter's the same way. She bought herself a really nice computer, like more than she could afford to pay cash for. So I totally get that. I'm a computer guy myself. So anyway, don't mean to hammer that lesson home other than it was extremely valuable to me. We will see those of you who are attending at OCon. It's a little over a year away, which seems really long, but tempus fugit. Time does fly.
Yes.
Especially when you're having fun, and I know you're all having fun. Folks, we ran a little long, more than 5 minutes. Thank you for joining us. That's it. I'm just going to wrap it up, but unlike the man, again, no criticism of Yarn, but unlike him, my optimism is only a little bit chipped away by the fact that we are facing crazies on the left, crazies on the right, and a presidential election that should not exist. And unlike 2016, when I told you at the time, I'm just going to ignore politics for the next 4 years, I kind of have to engage a little bit because at some point it becomes an evasion. And I've got to do certain things to protect myself from these crazy, insane, old nut jobs that are going to be running the country, whichever one of the two it is. So, with all that said, I remain an optimist because all of you are out there, and 8 billion other people besides, only some of whom are absolutely horrible, and most of whom are still smiling as they serve me coffee at Starbucks.
All right. And with that
said, we wish you all of the happiness you so richly deserve, all of the flourishing that your own good efforts, your virtues have made you justly receive. If you're not getting what you deserve, figure out how to make your wheel a little more squeaky so you do get it.
Yes.
We wish you all the happiness. We wish you the flourishing. We wish you tons, boatloads of money, because money's great. Oh, and one other thing. We wish you love.